Okay, let's go over some really basic ideas about the banjo before we get into fingerstyle playing and bluegrass fingerstyle playing. So I'm in the key of G. Tuning is G on the top, then D, G, B, and D. And unlike the clawhammer style, with this bluegrass style, I like to keep my pinky and ring finger anchored to the banjo so that all that is moving are the fingers that I'm using, which is my thumb, my first finger, and my middle finger. And in the beginning, what we're learning, the thumb is pretty much going to stay on top, the middle finger is going to stay on the outside D string, and the first finger will be moving around as we do the forward roll, which you'll get into in the next lesson. Now, some of this might be review, and some of it might be new, depending on where you're coming into this as a total beginner on the banjo or if you have some experience. But I'm going to run over just some basic thoughts in the key of G. If you already know this, feel free to skip forward. So the open strings make a G chord. Okay? The next chord you'll need is a C chord, and that's the middle finger at the second fret of the D string, first finger, first fret, B string, and ring finger, second fret, D string. And the next chord we'll be using is a D7 chord. Don't worry about what the 7 means right now. We'll just call it a D chord throughout most of this lesson series. And that chord is the middle finger on the second fret of the G string and first finger, first fret of the B string. And we'll learn another way to play the D chord down the road. But for now, when we say D, that's what we're going to play. D7. O, 2, 1, O. Now there's another way to play these chords, and you can play them as bar chords, which is essentially what this open G is. So if you just cover up all the strings, you can make chords pretty much anywhere on the frets. And where we're going to do that first is here at the 5th fret. That's another way to play your C chord. Cover them all up. Now, I don't cover up the very top string, but I cover up all the rest. And then the 7th fret is your D chord. And one more good thing to know, even if you don't quite understand what it means yet, just memorize, because it's going to come up down the road if you keep playing banjo a good bit, the numbers that go with the key. So in the key of G, your root chord is called G, and it can also be called the number 1, which is also often a Roman numeral. But we can call that the 1 chord. Now when we get to our C, here or here, either version, we call that the 4 chord. And when we get here to the D, we call that the 5 chord. So those are just some basic concepts that you ought to know before we really get into playing this stuff. Now, if you want to do all the basic stuff like how to tune, the relative tunings and stuff like that, all of that is in the Clawhammer Basics course. So you might want to check that out as well. And it doesn't hurt to learn both styles, clawhammer and some sort of finger style. They're both pretty fun to play. And so the first basic rhythmic idea that we're going to do is with the right hand, and it's called a forward roll. And so my first finger is on the B string, my second finger is on the D, my thumb is on the G on top. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So the index is the 1, the middle is the 2, the thumb is the 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, put them together, they'll go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And I want to leave you with a little tune that we're going to eventually work up to put in this music with. So it's called Boil Them Cabbage Down. And we'll get into how to put the forward roll with it in the next lesson. But I just kind of want to play it for you so you can get it in your head. It sounds like this. Cabbage down, bake them whole cakes brown. The only song that I can sing is boil them cabbage down. So we'll get into how to put these chords to that and what the chord structure is of that tune in the next lesson, and how to put the forward roll across those chords to make a little tune.